So we'll do a little review. It won't be very long, though. So I gotta first be clear that right now I'm doing Path B. But there's 3 paths for this game, and I just started Path B. So I only completed Path A. So I can really only comment on that. So this is NieR Automata. And I like it. It's a good game. I guess, like, if I summarize my thoughts about this game, it's... I like the game, but I feel like there's just so many other games out there that are better.
Man,
this is an action RPG, so, you know, there's a lot of competition out there. There's so many action RPG games out there, you know, especially when we consider this is a hack-and-slash action RPG. Even if you limit the genre to just hack-and-slash action RPGs, there's so many. So, you know, it's going up against a lot of stiff competition. I'll try not to compare directly to any of those games, though. But I do want to just kind of point out that my biggest issue with the game isn't so much as, like, this game is bad or anything. It's actually good. It's just, I think in this day and age, you find yourself preferring another type of gameplay and feeling like you want to play more of that kind of game rather than, you know, this kind of game. So, you got, like, really, like, one of the things about this game that's interesting is just how diverse the gameplay is. You know, it's not just hack and slash action. You have, like, shooter elements like this, which is pretty interesting. And I grew up playing shmups as a kid, so I can definitely appreciate that stuff. And I'm quite good at it, too, if I do say so myself. Also has, like, these little hacking mini-game things, although they're pretty rare. So it does vary the gameplay up a little bit, but the majority of Type A's gameplay is simply, you know, you're kind of running around a open world and you are hacking and slashing robots. And the combat is very good. I would say the hack and slash combat, you know, you have, like, right now I can't show it off, but, you know, you have your sword swipes and you have, like, lots of different swords that you can use. But you also have a ranged weapon, and then you can also give your drone, like, a super weapon. I mostly just use the laser, but there's other weapons there which, you know, add a great deal of depth and stuff. So all that's fun. The only thing about the hack and slash combat is that it is a bit confusing, like, to control everything at once. It uses a lock-on system where you need to hold down a button similar to Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time in order to lock onto enemies, and this is actually one of the cases where I think having a toggle switch like Dark Souls where you'd lock onto enemies would have been more beneficial, because it would have just been one less thing to kind of occupy your mind, because you need to shoot your ranged weapon and hack and slash at the same time and think about shooting your super laser. So it's a lot to keep track of, and it's a little bit too much and overwhelming. If they just had a toggle switch for locking on, I think that would have been better. Ironically enough, I think Dark Souls would have benefited more from having something to just hold down the entire time. So they're kind of like opposites in that way. So the open world, you have this open world to explore, but it feels kind of sterile, you know, like, it isn't really all that interesting. Unlike games like Dark Souls and Bloodborne,
get a load of that
there
thing.
Isn't a sense
Firing
of
missiles.
Discovery and exploration. And that's a really big thing in action RPG, you know, especially one that tries to have, you know, an open world.
Better make sure he's actually dead next time. That was
I
dangerous,
almost
man.
feel like the game would have been better if it were linear,
You're
but
2B, right?
I don't know that for sure.
My name's 9S. I'm here to provide support.
Copy that.
So, was that big old buzzsaw the Goliath you came here to take out?
No.
So right now we're
just
seeing
another
some
defensive
storyline
system.
here.
Oh.
I do like the story.
Well,
The main
I
story
guess
is
we have
actually
to find the
pretty
target
interesting.
then, huh? I've got a flight unit, so I'll take a look around the perimeter.
All right.
And
I'll work my way inside from the ground.
You see, you got 2S or 9S, and you got 2B, and their interaction with each other is really interesting, and it's really good, and it's well developed. I like that a lot. However, there really aren't a lot of other characters that you really care about.
Ma'am?
What is it?
I was going to send you the map data I collected earlier.
Do
So
it.
here you hear, like, you know, kind of like, I like the little cute things, like where, like, 9S is, like, he kind of has a crush on 2B,
You know, ma'am,
but he doesn't know
I'm
how
glad
to
you're
really,
Why?
you know,
Scanners like me mostly
communicate
work alone.
his feelings to her
Scouting
that
out
well.
enemy lines and all that. I don't
And he
usually
kind of
get a
acts socially
partner.
awkward around her,
It's
so
kinda fun.
stuff like that I like.
know
It's really
she's
charming. But like I said, there just aren't
Sorry,
any
ma'am.
other
And
characters
another
that you
thing,
really care
Stop
about. So
calling me ma'am.
the whole
It's
the whole game
unnecessary.
is
All right,
just
then. 2B it is.
essentially, you know, those two characters, and that's it. Because of that, the world itself kind of feels drab, dull because of that, because there aren't any other characters. You know, Mass Effect, this is not. Dragon Age, this is not. Witcher 3, this is not. You're never gonna find any other interesting characters other than those two main characters. But, luckily, the characters that it does focus on, they are well developed. And I do find the main story to be actually quite intriguing. It's actually pretty interesting, pretty cool. You know, you want to find out what the hell's going on. Even though, you know, it is your kind of typical let's go save the world kind of scenario. Wait, why are my controls so weird here? Let's see. So even though the combat is good, I feel like there's something weird going on with my controller. Even though the combat is good, the enemies that you fight are not that good. They get kind of dull pretty quick. So they're just generic robots the whole game.
This place sure is big.
I guess
You know,
humans
and
used to use it
actually
as
I
a
kind of
weapons
like the
factory.
texture mapping for the robots, especially during cutscenes on
The enemy
close-ups.
seems
It
to
looks
have
quite good.
repurposed the facility
But
to
they get
increase
pretty
their
dull
overall
pretty
machine
quickly, you
production.
know. It's like
So
they're
if we don't
kind of all
destroy
look like
it, they'll just
R2-D2
keep
kind of
coming.
robots. And so, yeah, they're not all that interesting, you know. I talked about Neo a little bit. One of the criticisms about Neo is like the lack of
It's
enemy
just accessing
diversity.
random, nonsensical data from the old
Honestly,
world.
that game compared to
There's no
this
actual reason behind
has
anything machine.
infinitely more enemy diversity than this game does. So that's kind of one of the things that's lacking. And I'm not playing so well because I'm trying to talk at the same time. There's a bunch of side quests to do, but again, like, it goes to the point I was making about how the open world isn't really all that interesting. None of the side quests are really all that compelling because they don't have any interesting stories, side stories connected to them. They're mostly just go here and do something. There's no real story connected to them. You know, what makes a side quest interesting, you know, if you ever played Mass Effect or Dragon Age or something like that, is that they have, like, interesting stories connected to them.
Yeah, there's
You know,
more
so
plants
even
and
though
animals
the
here than there
gameplay might
used to be.
not be all that
Probably because the
compelling by
environment's
itself,
changed.
what makes them interesting to play are the stories connected to them.
There
And
should
this
be
game,
another facility
obviously,
across that bridge.
there's no
It's a bit of a
such
hike, but
connection
should we
there.
check it out?
So that's why they're not really all that interesting.
like
And I
command
didn't really
to get
do
a
a lot of
location
side
wrong.
quests in this
I
game.
guess even they get bad intel from time to time, huh?
The level progression system is kind of confusing. I didn't really do too much of it. You got like lots of chips that you need to connect together. It's kind of weird. I don't really have much to say about it. It works. You kind of get used to it, but at the same time, it's ultimately not that satisfying. I mean, you do get powerful as the game goes on, so at least there's that going for it. It has kind of like a typical level progression
What's going
system,
on?
She appears
you know,
to be
akin to like a
engaging
Final
the
Fantasy
target
game
enemy.
where the more
have
you
to
kill
help her.
stuff, the
Let's
more
go.
powerful you become. And that's about it. Nothing too in-depth there. as far as I can tell. Graphics are just kind of okay. Like I said before, close-up on the robot textures is quite good. The open world looks a little drab and lifeless, though.
What's your status?
But then you got big guys like this.
I'm going to destroy it.
You got some pretty cool bosses. The boss fights are okay. But I would say the graphics on the whole are kind of average. They're nothing too special.
Penetration path detected. Displaying on HUD.
But they're not bad either. They're just average, I would say. Music is great. I really like it. You got some pretty cool tracks. Ending theme is really cool. I like that. And, yeah. On the whole, I think it's a good game. But I did get that distinct feeling while I was playing it. I did get kind of bored at times. And kind of get that distinct feeling where, you know, I kind of wish I was playing a different game instead. Those are just my honest thoughts from playing only Path A for this game. Maybe one day we could kind of do like a revised review for Path B. But we'll see. And that's all I gotta say.